We have three special presentations on Short Park tonight. The first is by Barry Franz. Barry, you're up.
Basically tonight I'm going to discuss three particular items based upon Short Park. Hamilton County Public Health Department is still performing landfill gas readings at the site. They have added an additional 4 locations, and they are now monitoring on a monthly basis rather than on a quarterly basis. Since my presentation, the additional readings have occurred on June 20th, July 25th, and August 31st. All readings have been below those standards used by the Hamilton County Public Health. The highest methane reading was a 0.4% at their sample point location 11 on July 25th. That is still below the standards that they use to evaluate. To date, all readings since 2003 have been below the action standards. Now, if anybody wants to get copies of the landfill gas readings, all they have to do is contact the Hamilton County Public Health Waste Management Group, and they will email it to you. Secondly, we recently completed a non-intrusive geophysical survey. It was conducted August 1st through August 3rd by the firm Grunham Exploration Incorporated out of Columbus. The purpose of this survey was to delineate the landfill limits and to determine the relative thickness of the landfill cover. Grunham Exploration used 2 geophysical techniques. They both have long names. One is called electromagnetic induction profiling. We call it EMI. The second one was a multi-frequency ground penetrating radar survey, which we call just GPR. A report has been prepared and it has recently been released. The EMI results indicate that the extent of the landfill matches that reasonably closely as determined by the Hamilton County Public Health. However, there is one difference. That little finger of land that is in the northeast corner is not part of the landfill. That is natural soil based upon the geophysical survey. Now, Grunham used a multi-frequency GPR in order to get a much better handle on the approximate thickness of the landfill cover. This is a fairly sophisticated geophysical technique. Based on the study that he performed, the apparent thickness of the landfill cover is estimated to range from approximately 6 inches along the edges, the outer edges of the landfill, to as much as 30 inches within the landfill. Now, there were areas of thicker landfill cover, but those were located in areas where we assumed basically we had crevices within the landfill material, and as they capped it, the material rolled in. So instead of a 30-inch thickness, it might be more like 5 or 6 feet. The important thing here is that thickness is not consistent over the landfill. Now, the multi-frequency GPR survey closely matched the detections that were identified in the original ground penetrating radar study. Basically, both studies came up and stated that there were very limited to virtually no areas of high metal concentrations. In other words, groupings of maybe washing machines, refrigerators, hot water heaters. We just had isolated areas. Now, surprisingly, we found a number of underground utilities, that were located along the edges of the landfill and within the landfill. Now, within the landfill, we knew that we were going to find electrical lines, potable water lines, and sanitary sewer lines. Now, these were identified by both the EMI survey and the ground penetrating radar. Now, based upon the overall responses of both sets of geophysical techniques, The author of the report believes that most of landfill consists of residential, that is household waste, yard waste, and construction debris. Now, this report will soon be in the public domain, and it can be requested from the village, it can be requested through Ohio EPA's e-document website, as well as Hamilton County Public Health. The previous geophysical report is already out in the public domain. Now, based upon, in particular, this work, what are the next steps that need to be taken? Based upon the efforts to date, it was decided to take an initial step of conducting a limited landfill cover thickness investigation. Basically, we need to confirm, right now it's random across the site. I can't pick a spot and say it's 12 inches here, it's 18 inches here. We need something a little more scientifically certain. So we want to confirm the thickness, we want to confirm the condition of the cap, and we want to confirm the soil makeup of the landfill cover. Now, this investigation will consist of a very limited excavation. We will only go through the landfill cover. We will not go into the landfill materials. Now, in order to perform this investigation, we have to prepare and submit to Ohio EPA a Rule 2713 permit application. But it is specifically for this investigation. It is not for any current planned or future planned construction. It is only for this investigation. Now, because of that, based on discussions with Ohio EPA, the approval for this permit will be handled at the local office, that is in Dayton, Ohio. We will not have to go to the director's office in Columbus to get approval. Also, the investigation is going to be conducted in accordance with the regulations and the guidance that Ohio EPA already has put out. They have extensive experience in this type of work with closed landfills. Now, once we have this investigation completed, then the Academy's design engineer can make some decisions with respect to site grading, excavation, and filling. But it is currently believed that the site will require additional fill than what was originally anticipated. But to what extent and what thickness, we just don't know yet. That's why we need to conduct this investigation. Now, once the Rule 2713 permit application is completed, it is submitted, of course, to the village for their review and approval. Then it gets submitted to Ohio EPA. So it is not in the public domain until we get to that point. However, the easiest way to get a hold of it then is through Ohio EPA's e-document website. Now, the results report is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be a map showing where we did the excavation and what the thickness is. That's what the design engineer needs. That information, when it's completed, will also be in the public domain. So, any questions? Yes?
Might have missed it. How long do you think it will take you before you're going to be done with that report that will tell us how thick that cap's going to have to be?
Once the permit application.
Approximately.
Oh, approximately. We are probably talking, with review from the agency and everything else, 2, maybe 3 months. The actual investigation is not going to take long. A day or two in the field and a day to put the report together. That's it.
Do you think the EPA is going to respond on the letter before 30 days?
Yes.
So their time limit, it's a routine exploratory cap invasion, so you think you'll get a response well within 30 days?
I think I'll get a response well within 30 days.
Is that the end of your presentation?
That is the end of the presentation that I have.
Mr. Franz has to leave.
Yep.
He's got an open engagement. He won't be here when we talk about the legislation, so if you have questions, you need to ask him now. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Franz. Brandstetter.
Good evening, Council. Wanted to speak to the Short Park process and our role as village engineer. As you all have seen us come back and review and approve plans before. And as you just heard from Barry, this is a complicated site from an engineering and environmental standpoint. He had talked about some of the technical details that are out there. I don't want to speak in his shoes and go for them, but that is something that needs to be overcome and developed. And as our role of village engineer, as MVCA prepares those plans that meets all the permits, meets the approvals, we will do that. I believe the legislation that is on the table for this evening has a schedule that we have sat down with representatives from MVCA and believes that it is an attainable schedule through the issues that Barry has brought up. But at the end of the day, that will be on the applicants in MVCA to get their plans in and submitted and permitted. But that was really it from me this evening. Mayor, if anyone has any questions for me at this
In
time.
your opinion, you think a year is a reasonable time given all the benchmarks that have to be met? Is that a fair statement? A year extension of the start of construction is what the documents call for.
I believe that that is an obtainable schedule that can be met.
Now, as you know, Council, Miami Valley Christian Academy sent a letter to Council asking for an extension of the construction date on the Short Park Athletic Complex. I think MVCA is here to address that extension. Nick, you want to speak to that issue?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Nick Rotolo, and I currently serve on the Board of Trustees of Miami Valley Christian Academy. Mr. Tom Rodenbaugh, who is currently leading the construction phase of our joint agreement for the development of Short Park Athletic Complex, is unfortunately out of town on business this week, so he asked me to sub for him tonight. I'll be reading a prepared statement. My purpose of being at this meeting and addressing the Village Council is to request a one-year extension to the start of the construction requirements set forth in our joint venture agreement. Before I get to the details regarding this request, I want to remind Council of the tremendous amount of support for the project we have received both from within the school and also from within the community. To underscore this, allow me to read a letter that was received regarding the development of Short Park by Mr. John Russell, a 43-year resident and former mayor of Newtown. Ladies and gentlemen, I am a 43-year resident of Newtown, and for 42 of those years have served in appointed and elected positions in the village, including 8 years as mayor and currently planning commission chair. My wife and I raised 6 kids in Newtown. All of them participated in sports at some level, and we are acutely aware of the need for quality playgrounds and athletic fields. It is my pleasure to offer my support for the reference project, which will be available for local residents as well as being used for MVCA events. Our village is small and resources must necessarily be spent wisely for the maximum benefit of our residents, as well as our surrounding neighbors. This project meets those criteria, and as a partner with MVCA, we have leveraged our resources for everyone's benefit. I urge your positive response to the MVCA request. Sincerely, John R. Russell, Drake Street, Newtown, Ohio. Now to the request for a one-year extension. As you are aware, Section 4.1 of the joint venture agreement signed on 9/22/15 states the following. MVCA will begin construction of facilities in either Zone 1 or Zone 2 of the park as determined by MVCA within 24 months after the effective date hereof, also called the first phase. Such first phase will be substantially completed within 36 months after the effective date hereof. The 24-month period that is referenced ends on September 22nd, 2017, or 10 days from now. The primary reason for the delay in beginning the project is our efforts to make absolutely sure that any issues regarding EPA concerns as it relates to Short Park and its decades-ago use as a landfill are fully addressed and within EPA regulations. To this end, MVCA, along with Newtown, have done the following. We've worked closely with Ohio EPA and Hamilton County Health Department, including multiple face-to-face meetings, and more fully understand any environmental issues in the development of Short Park. 2, we have improved the level of information needed to obtain building permits. Thus, we have better information to refile for EPA approval and to solidify a bid proposal. 3, Mr. Barry France, who you've heard from tonight, who's been hired by the village to help understand these concerns, has shared that there are no findings about the landfill that should cause us great concern. We have clearly identified the limits of the landfill, and with good confidence we know the discarded materials are mainly construction and landscaping in nature. 4, we have learned the public statements about open dumping are related to a different landfill, not this, the Bolt landfill. However, we do need to consider how we excavate based on recent studies, and we intend to examine this further before submitting a new site plan for permits. 2 years have gone by faster than what we thought, but we have been steadily working towards a great result. We have had some unforeseen delays, but that does not change the value of the project. Now let me address the public expense concern, which has been thrown out for the reason of not granting an extension. FEMA has relieved at least 400 hours of mowing from the village. That has allowed one maintenance person to do 10 weeks or 2+ months of other village work. FEMA has also paid the village $10,000 in cash and will soon pay another $40,000 in cash per the contract. Those that want to derail the project will point out that taxpayer expenses are adding up, but always fail to point out some of the offsetting savings. As mentioned, the current contract calls for another $40,000 payment by 9/22/17. Ideally, MVCA would like to see approvals to bill before making this payment, but on the other hand, it is our full intention to complete the project. So, as further commitment to building, MVCA is planning on making this payment as agreed. MVCA will be disappointed to make this $40,000 payment and then not receive the opportunity to continue with the project with the reasonable extension we are requesting. In addition, if the 1-year extension is granted, we are prepared to commit another $10,000 payment to the village on 9/22/18, that's a year from now, to further offset some of the costs incurred by the village. I'm confident that you agree that this underscores MVCA's commitment to completing the project. In summary, we have worked closely with the Ohio EPA and the Hamilton County Health Department, and we've had multiple face-to-face meetings with them. We have improved the level of information needed to obtain building permits. We have better information to refile for EPA approval and to solidify a bid proposal. And we have honored our financial commitment of $50,000 as specified in the original agreement, and now have offered an additional $10,000 payment to offset anticipated Village of Newtown expenses. Again, to restate, 2 years have gone by faster than what we thought, but we have been steadily working towards a great result. We have had some unforeseen delays, as we said, but that does not change the value of the project to MVCA and to the residents of the Village of Newtown. Finally, it's worth a mention to realize that 21 years ago, Newtown received no taxes from MVCA. Today, MVCA is one of the top 10 taxpayers in the village. The school has seen steady growth for 21 years. We have record attendance this year with over 400 students and 60+ staff members. Hundreds of families have the opportunity to shop in Newtown every day, and many do. We have gone from having no economic impact on the village to having a meaningful impact. This project, when completed, helps secure the future of MVCA in Newtown and provides recreation facilities comparable to your surrounding neighbor communities. I would also add that this project creates local jobs and local building taxes for Newtown. I would like to close with a story that is a good comparison to this situation. About 14 years ago, the MVCA board announced that we would start a high school so our rising freshmen could stay at and graduate from MVCA. With any big project comes challenges. We failed to have a 9th grade for our raising 8th graders, and then we failed to have a 9th grade for the next class of 8th graders. We had started a capital campaign and began the planning process. While in this planning and fundraising stage, and with virtually no funds in hand, we learned that steel prices were going up 25%. This would add $100,000 to the cost of the building. Within 2 days, 4 donors rounded up $316,000 in personal loans, and we ordered the steel before we even had a building permit. The next day, steel prices did go up, but the savings were locked in. The steel was delivered and sat in an MVCA parking lot for another year. Why did 4 people take such a risk? 2 reasons. Faith and vision. MVCA would not have 400 plus students today without the faith and vision to complete the high school, or for that matter, to start a school. We have had multiple challenges over the last 21 years. Yes, at times, things take longer to accomplish than planned, but at MVCA, we stick to our plans and have always accomplished our goals. MVCA may not be paying any tax in the village today without the completion of the high school. 3 of those 4 investors are still living and have invested in the Short Park project as well. We still have faith and we still have vision. I ask you to look past today and think about how tomorrow can look. We ask that you let MVCA have the chance to improve the community, to grow the school, and to make this great vision a reality by granting the 1-year building extension. Thank you.
Any questions from Mr. Noah?
I have a couple questions. Do you have a revised budget on what you think this project's going to end up costing? From start to completion?
2.2 million.
2.2?
Yes.
And how much money do you have committed on hand, other than the equity line?
Right now, we have 1.45.
Does that include the equity line? Someone
Includes
did.
all available cash that we have available to us, yes.
Is 1 point what?
1.450.
Which again, I'm assuming that does include that equity
Yes.
line. Correct.
To construct a sports complex at Short Park and declaring an emergency. We have a copy of the ordinance in your package. First reading is September 12, 2017. I would just add, the solicitor, the village administrator, the Branstetter firm, and MVCA worked very hard on this addendum. MVCA took into account the money the village had spent and put new money on the table to cover some of the expenses. We have a pretty aggressive timeline in here, but it was consulted with Miami Valley and the Branstetter firm, and I think it's a good compromise, 1-year extension. So I'd like to open up discussion. We're going to have the first reading on it tonight. Would anybody like to talk about the ordinance approving the second addendum to the agreement with Miami Valley Christian?
Just a point of order, if you're going to do 3 readings, then it's not going to be an emergency, correct?
No, that's not the case. We want to
There's a difference between the suspending the rules and having an emergency clause. Suspending the rules is how many times it will be read before it is voted on. An emergency clause indicates when it goes into effect. By statute, ordinance is going to affect 30 days after they are passed, unless there is an emergency clause, in which case it takes immediate effect.
This is something we never got clarity from Mr. Miller, not to be critical, but Emily has spelled it out better, and I understand it.
That's
I
what I
have
asked.
at least 2 readings. I wanted everybody to get a chance to digest it, have 1 reading tonight. But does anybody have any comments? We have a lot of members from Miami Valley Christian Academy here. I'd like to make 2 comments, so I want me to go ahead, or does somebody want to speak on this?
Go ahead.
For 2 comments I would like to make, just housekeeping things for the minutes. I will point out for the minutes that in council back in 2004 put this issue on the ballot to the voters. On November 4, 2014, the village voted on whether we should go ahead with a joint venture with Miami Valley Christian Academy to develop Short Park. And the vote was overwhelming. It was 74% in favor of the agreement. I don't know what is a bigger mandate when you have 74% of people tell you to proceed with it. So I view my job as mayor to effectuate the will of the people, and I'm trying to work with Miami Valley in every way I can to see if we can bring this to fruition. The second point I'd like to make for the minutes is a letter I'd like to read into the record. I think it's a well-written letter by the Newtown Business Association. It's dated June 20, 2014. Dear Mayor and Village Council, RE, Short Park Development Plan, MVCA. On behalf of the Newtown Business Association and the business leaders listed below, I am writing to voice our support of the Short Park Development Plan proposed by Miami Valley Christian Academy. On December 3rd, 2013, NBA members voted unanimously to support the plan. The implementation of the Short Park Development Plan will bring more visitors to our community, thus extending the customer base, increasing business revenue, supplementing tax revenue, and ensuring economic vitality of the village of Newtown. Furthermore, the NBA believes that the development will attract new businesses to the village. NBA members are excited that a new athletic and recreation complex so close to the walkable business district will provide great opportunities for events, concerts, and festivals. Finally, MVCA is a critical customer base for the village. NBA members understand the Academy's strategic need for a home athletic complex in order to remain competitive with other private middle and high schools. The business community must help retain MVCA as a part of the community. Thank you for the opportunity to give council the perspective of the business owners on the Short Park Development Plan. Sincerely, Matt Cuff, President, NBA. That's a pretty good statement of why we want to develop park complex, and we want to keep MVCA in the community. So I just wanted to make those 2 points for the minutes. People may have forgotten them, but they are important. We did vote on it, and the NBA made some very telling points in their letter. Does anybody want to talk on this further?
I'll make some comments on this. I'm in favor of this, and I would tell you for a few reasons. Number one is by allowing the year, it is not costing the village anything. Matter of fact, they're making an additional contribution to get that year. But it doesn't prohibit any use of the park from anyone. You know, the residents can still use it as it is. We continue to have the grass cut by MVCA to our benefit. This still, for them to move forward, requires planning and zoning approval of their plan at some point in time. It still requires council approval of their financial resources in order to start the project. So we're not giving up anything from that perspective. We are allowing them this additional time. Do we like the idea that it takes an additional time to get it done? No one does. I'm sure MVCA does not, nor do we, but it is a course of life in a lot of different projects, especially something as big as this. I appreciate the comments that were made from the environmental perspective. There's a lot more guidance in terms of what has to happen there to make this go forward. And certainly, we are not going to allow it to go forward unless those compliance items are met. So I don't see that the village is giving anything up from that perspective by allowing the other year. The park continues to be available for anyone's use until such time. If a year goes by and they're able to do the project, or they say we can't pull the project off for whatever reasons, and then it remains the property of the village to take.
I would just like to say that I agree with Mr. Tietmeyer. I don't think this is an unreasonable request. I see no harm done to anyone. In fact, it's a greater opportunity to do their due diligence for the environmental concerns and fundraising for whatever they need. It's all for the benefit of village residents and nearby residents. So in any construction project, there are delays, there are hiccups in the road, and I don't think that this is an unreasonable request, and I do support it.
Yeah, I want to echo that as well. As we consider this, excuse me, there are 3 points that I'd like to bring up. One is that they're offering up $10,000 to offset some of the expenses that we've been out, and I appreciate that. That's a very kind offer. As Cheryl just alluded to, there are always construction obstacles that large projects like this entail in I think it's reasonable that we grant them their 12 months. And then the third point is the very worst that can happen is that the residents get to use this beautiful park that's still there. It's open, it's available to the residents, and so there's really no reason not to grant them their extension.
Okay, that's 3 council members. Anybody else want to speak to this?
Mayor, my only concern, I mean, I think it's very, very admirable to build a complex. You know, that park it's for the kids. It's always been about the kids.
Maybe for your family, too.
Well, that's beside the point. You know, when that property was donated or secured, it was secured for the purpose of doing something for the kids, period. My concern is the funding. You know, I appreciate the fact of looking at the projected cost of about $2.2 million to get it. I'm afraid that you're probably lowball on that. I think it's probably going to end up costing you more than that. The reason I question the equity line as far as a donation, that's really not, in my estimation, someone putting their house up on an equity line is not really like cash in hand. If that person gets upset with Miami Valley, you've lost that $500,000. If that person passes away, God forbid, that $500,000 is gone. So in actuality, you're back to a shortfall of about 1.2 if you follow through to the 2.2. I'm not sure you haven't been able to raise that much money at this point in time. I'm not sure another year you're going to be any closer to that. The funding is my concern. I don't know how else to put it other than that. I'm not trying to be difficult or unreasonable, but I guess from a standpoint of sitting up here as a councilman, also being a resident and seeing what some of the other residents are saying about this, had people known what they know now, I'm not sure this would have passed. That's all I have to say.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything?
Mr. Mayor, I'm obviously a short-termer here, so I don't have the perspective that some of you do. But I have looked at the project, and I agree with many of the comments. I certainly see no reason not to grant an extension. And I'm not sure if we are in a position to challenge fundraising. I've been involved in fundraising. It's a difficult and obtuse process. They've secured 65% of the funds they're looking for one way or another. Certainly granting now 12 months to secure the additional funds and to go through the other steps of the project and the analysis and so on and so on. I don't see it to be unreasonable.
As you know, the last meeting or maybe last month, I was in favor of ending the agreement. But after due diligence and hearing MVCA's side of the story, why they need it, I can support it.
Okay, well, sounds like you've got at least 5 votes. So just on the first reading tonight, which we did correctly, right? That was